What have been the best parts of the Club World Cup's opening days? MLS's Golden Boot winner stuck in a war zone? And are the Canadians Gold Cup favorites now? That and more on Wednesday's Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show, The Sound of France. Peckinpah means just one thing. You found your way to Morning Kick Around, the show where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you for joining us. How you feeling, sir?
I'm all right. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock. This is going to be a good one. We got a lot of things to cover on this episode of Morning Kick Around.
Many soccer rings happen both far and near. And if you are tuned in now and you haven't hit that subscribe button, do so now. We crashed through the 2,500 marker, setting our sights for 5,000 subscribers. And if you've already hit subscribe or you really want to jump into the deep end and help out the show, help it grow, become a member. $3.99 a month, just a simple button push away, and you get priority access to commenting, early access to videos, bonus content, and access to the Discord. On the Discord, we got conversations flowing from local all the way into international topics. So a big point there of joining the membership program. If you want to support the show outside of the YouTube sphere, coffee.com/morningkickaround. You can name your donation amount and the frequency there. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, become a member in MK Ultra, or helped out on the Ko-Fi. You can follow along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You can also write us a note at our morningkickaround@gmail.com. And reminder, we are also a podcast, so search for Morning Kickaround on your favorite podcast platform. You ready for some segments, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, as I forget to put up all the banners because our producer is absent, pulling back the curtain. That was my job, and I screwed it up. Good job setting us up. Let's do this. Let's go, Rob. You ready for?
All right, here we go. Wednesday's long balls here on Morning Kick Around. Long ball number one here on Morning Kick Around. It is Wednesday, June 18th. Who are the favorites for the Gold Cup now? Both United States men's national team and then last night, Canada with emphatic opening game wins. What do you think? Canada the favorites now?
You know, I would certainly say 6-0 over Honduras looks more impressive than 5-0 over Trinidad and Tobago. But aren't we kind of splitting hairs here at this point, Rob? I mean, Trinidad and Tobago, pretty bad. Keep that in context. Great for the United States to build some confidence, score some goals. And I do think that, recent results matter. And you'd certainly judge the United States more harshly based on their recent results than you would Canada. And Canada has more of their first choice players than the United States. Tejan Buchanan fought Mob's man of the match last night against Honduras because he was so devastating, and we know he is a first-choice player for Canada. Jonathan David scoring goals for Canada. That's a first-choice player. Canada has, if you're saying like relative strength of their squads, Canada has the advantage in this situation. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, you're not too far off the boat. And you kind of scorned me for saying should Pulisic tag along, but Alphonso Davies right there on the sideline cheering his team along. And you got to say that looked positive from my perspective. You said like a coach doesn't want a star player just lingering around. And granted, it's a little bit different injury or selection, but
yes, come on.
He looked positive.
That's different. And look, I do think it's an easy thing to pick at if you're a national team, U.S. men's national team fan. Like, we can't get that sort of enthusiasm and support and camaraderie and community and culture with our team. Our guys don't show up. I mean, the difference, of course, is that Alphonso Davies has an injury that is limiting him from doing. He couldn't play if he wanted to, whereas Christian Pulisic could play if he wanted to, but he's like, I'm not 100%, bro. I need to take some time off, which is a very different kind of environment. Now, in terms of, again, what this result means versus what the U.S. result means, and maybe now who's the favorite. Mexico is still around. They're still lurking. Yes, they struggled a bit against the Dominican Republic, but they also have a lot of their first choice guys, and I think they're going to improve in the tournament. I still think that it goes Mexico, Canada, the United States. Those are the three teams in that order for me in terms of favorite to win this tournament. Mainly because Canada hasn't done it in a long time, and as talented as they are in certain parts of the field, they have some deficiencies. By the way, Honduras really bad last night. Like really bad. Like don't think that's the old Honduras. That's not the old Honduras. Right? That's why it's hard to judge any of these teams off their first performance. Dominican Republic better than they've ever been before. Trinidad and Tobago really bad. Honduras maybe as bad as they've been in a long time. So it makes it really tough. But I would still say Mexico's the favorite. I would have Canada because of the strength of their squad at number 2. And then I would have the United States coming in third. And any one of them can win it, Rob.
Yeah, I'd say it's wild. Canada seems to be having these more and more players step up and look like first teamers. They're kind of getting that scary stage where there's not just like 111 and then a drop off. There seems to be more and more players that look like impact players coming up and stepping up. And there were some players that I was not familiar with that looked really good in this game last night.
Obviously here you have people in our chat. Nate, who's a member, be like Nate, be an MK Ultra. He's saying, you can't put us in front of Panama, can you, even without Coco? I think you can, but again, if you don't want to, if you think Panama deserves more respect, be my guest. Be my guest. Again, part of this is the United States doesn't have its first choice squad by any stretch of the imagination, and they've been poor, and they were bad in the friendlies and all those things. Maybe I'm going on hope more than anything else. I know there is obviously a recent bit of evidence that says Panama can beat the United States even when the U.S. has a much stronger squad than the team they have now. I think Pochettino botched the tactics so much in that match in the Nations League that I don't know how to judge that performance. And again, I think this is obviously a very down moment for the U.S. men's national team, and lots of people are saying there's no way you can put us in front of Panama. Fine. We'll see how this plays out, obviously, right? There's a lot of soccer left to be played. We played one group stage match at this tournament. So there's really not a lot of evidence right now, either in any way, to judge this. Panama beat Guadeloupe. What am I supposed to say about that? And again, as Nate pointed out, Coco Carrasquilla is not there. I mean, this to me, this is not why I would put Panama ahead of the United States in terms of winning the tournament. If you want to say Panama can beat the United States because they've beaten us or knocked us out of tournaments 3 times in a row, all right. I just don't. This isn't about the U.S. versus Panama. This is about winning the entire tournament. So again, we'll see. Right? Again, maybe it's blind faith on my part, but I don't think that this Panama team is unbeatable for the United States.
Yeah, we're somewhat prisoners of the moment here after like one game played. How many Gold Cup group stage matches really like linger in the memory for too long? But both of the North American, or all the North American teams, getting their Gold Cup campaigns off on the winning foot. Canada have Curacao at the weekend, and then on Thursday night, United States men's national team take on Saudi. Just a 30-second preview. Do you think that the United States, I mean, are they going to be a super challenge? Is this, I mean, obviously a step up from Trinidad and Tobago,
absolutely,
but a true challenge?
Well, again, if you go back, they win the game against Haiti. Haiti can't put the ball in the net. It's a penalty that beats them versus Saudi Arabia. We saw Saudi Arabia make a mark in the World Cup 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, but they haven't been that good. They haven't been great in Asian qualifying. So I think this is obviously a game the United States should win. I'm not saying it's 5-0, but they should win this game. And maybe this will be a better test of where they are. And if we get the same kind of performances out of Diego Luna, out of Luca de la Torre, out of Tim Ream and Chris Richards, if they start again, and I think they probably will, then we'll have more confidence going in to the final group stage match, which may not matter too much. And then obviously the knockout phase when things get real. And that's, we talked a little bit about how that plays out, quarterfinal, semifinals, final. The United States, if they win their group, probably line up not an easy match in the quarterfinal, but a match they could probably win or should win, and then a semifinal potentially against Canada, which may be where they trip up.
I hope that we see a very similar lineup to the one against Trinidad. I want to see some like team cohesion and get some solidity before the experimentation begins. And hopefully that Luna Tillman combination continues to grow. It seems fair that Diego Luna has shown improvement and consistency over this run. Like, obviously, there was the losing streak. He was the shining light and then was one of the pivotal figures in the game against Trinidad. Excited to see where that goes and if it continues to grow match on match as it has been in this last little run of games for the national team. Again, Thursday versus Saudi. Long ball number 2. San Jose Earthquakes of Major League Soccer are for sale per an article in Sportico very recently. Speculation that this is to maybe fund a baseball stadium in Las Vegas. So RSL, for context, RSL recently sold for $600 million. Vancouver Whitecaps on the market. So what do we make of San Jose on the market?
Yeah, this is Sportico reporting, and Kurt Badenhausen is the writer, saying that John Fischer has hired an investment bank to sell his MLS club, according to multiple people familiar with the billionaire's plans. An official announcement is expected sometime today, so we may be out ahead of this a bit thanks to Sportico. Obviously, again, this is all tied up in the baseball team that Fischer owns the Athletics. They have left Oakland. They don't want to play in the Coliseum anymore. They want to move to Vegas, but there's no stadium in Vegas that's appropriate for a Major League Baseball team. So they're playing in a minor league baseball venue in Sacramento. And as much as I adore Sacramento, again, born and raised for 2 months in Sacramento, California, I can't get behind,
twinkle in your eye for Sacramento.
I can't get behind the idea of a Major League Baseball team playing in a minor league baseball venue. This is a joke. I mean, and this makes John Fischer a joke. And Quakes fans will say, yeah, of course, we've known this for a very long time. He doesn't really care about his MLS team. You know, they got PayPal Park built. That's something. It's still one of the smaller soccer-specific venues in MLS. I think 18,000 is the capacity. The claim to fame of PayPal Park, or whatever it was called originally, was something like it had the world's longest outdoor bar or some nonsense like that. I mean, if you're marketing that, you clearly have, you're clearly not talking about the soccer. They've improved, right? Because Bruce Arena came in. That's like the cheat code. That's like the Game Shark of Major League Soccer. Rob, do you remember Game Shark or Game Genie? You remember these, right?
And it's actually a little apt. Maybe you might get a couple errors or some weird glitch outs, but mostly good. And
it might not work perfectly. And you might also think, well, if I really put the work in, I could learn to play this game and beat it. But why not go get Bruce Arena and just cut a couple steps and warp to the 10th level and skip all those other things that you don't want to do. That may be what's going on here. So he made at least a smart decision in that regard, even if it's a very remedial decision. But
do you think he got Bruce Arena at a cut rate deal because of where Bruce was with his departure from New England?
He might have gotten him cheaper, yeah, for sure. And they haven't spent a ton of money on their players, right? They that's a thing too. Bruce is going to come in and say, I can win with some rejects. I can win with some guys that are not expensive. I can go get Tito Arango and bring him back to MLS and make it work or whatever. Or, obviously they have players that Joseph Martinez, right, that have been stars in MLS, but maybe are on the downside of their careers. He got a bunch of guys from New England, right? Guys he knows. This is what Bruce Arena does. But in terms of this sale, and remember, again, RSL went for $600 million, but that included an MLS Next Pro team that has its own stadium, an NWSL team that plays in that building, right, in terms of the Utah Royals. So there's a complex, right, some real estate, some things that go with it. When you're buying the Quakes, you're buying PayPal Park and you're buying the San Jose Earthquakes. Hard to imagine they go for $600 million. And in the story, Kurt Badenhausen says that they were ranked 20th in Sportico's MLS team valuations, but they were valued at $600 million. So maybe I'm wrong about that. They were valued at $600. We'll see if they go for that. I think this is a test of MLS values right now, because we've got the Vancouver Whitecaps are also on the market, Rob, and nobody knows how much they could go for. And nothing's happened yet. And we've been doing this for the entire season so far. And how long will it take for John Fischer to sell the Quakes? And is this ultimately going to be better for the Quakes? If you're a Quakes fan, are you rooting for this deal to happen because you're tired of John Fischer and he hasn't taken this team to where they should be?
Yeah, this could be celebrated news. Obviously, I mean, this is where the stadium being built and being theirs is huge, because if they were like renting it or if it was some facility, we would be asking the question, like, are they going to stick around? Are they going to move? Are they going to be rebranded? Sure. But with that firm footprint of a stadium, it's more likely that they would stay and remain the Earthquakes.
I think it is probably wrong. Shout out to Andy, who is saying that They're in California, not Utah. That's an attraction. This is San Jose, adjacent to Silicon Valley, adjacent to San Francisco. Much more attractive in terms of the pedigree of the location. Daniel's saying no one is paying that. I think you're probably wrong, Daniel. That's just, again, I think you're probably wrong. And I said I don't know if they can go for 600 because they don't have the assets that the Utah situation did. But again, you're in California, and there's still an appetite for people with a lot of money or the ability to raise a lot of money, or a collection of people willing to raise a lot of money to be involved in pro sports. And there are only so many entry points into pro sports, particularly in the United States of America. And you can argue like, oh, it's probably better to go buy an English team in the third division and try to get them up. Yeah, you'll get more bang for your buck, bang for your pound, I guess, if you do that. But there are lots of people who don't want to engage in promotion or relegation, or aren't in it for the soccer reasons, or just in it for the, hey, I want to be attached to something cool. And with the World Cup coming up next year in the United States of America, there's a very good chance there's a boom, or at least a lift for the game, more attention on the game. People might be willing to pay this.
Interesting that there's that whole baseball tie-in and stadiums and whatnot. And we're going to talk more about that. We got some rendering radar later on in the show, and there's some tie-ins with baseball stadia there too. But interesting that this is going the other way here in California. For context, the two teams that are on the market, Vancouver, surprisingly to everyone, in first place. San Jose going from worst to mid-table with the hire of Bruce Arena. Do you think that the current status of the team, the playing team, does affect valuations at all?
Sure, on some level. I mean, if you're consistently good, and there's a sense that if you buy the team, you're going to stay, near the top. Yeah, of course it does. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily a massive drain, because again, scarcity is the biggest selling point for MLS. It's why they can ask for $500 million for an expansion fee, even though they're bigger than any other top division league in the world. I think at this point, there's still this notion that there are only so many spots available. So I think it matters, but I don't think it's a deciding factor necessarily.
Also interesting, if any Major League Soccer owners are somewhat thinking about getting out of the game, do you think that there might be a flood of owners that don't want to compete in the pro rel world in a couple of years, might, be hitting the eject button while that scarcity and the evaluations are at this point? Are we at the high point, I guess, is the easier question, considering what else is going on in the landscape?
That's interesting. The idea I certainly think a lot of people believe there's some sort of bubble around MLS valuations.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because what is this? I mean, these clubs don't bring in the revenue. Remember, we did the Sportico rankings. I think we brought them up and did a video about the Sportico rankings. And it was like, oh, look at all the MLS teams in the top 50 of Sportico's most valuable clubs in the world. And you would see like Inter Milan right next to LAFC, and the drop in revenue was dramatic. Like the difference in how much money they bring in was dramatic. So that feels bubblicious. That feels like something that can't sustain itself, because why are you paying that much money for something that doesn't bring in money? And again, I do think that there's an element to that, but I guess I don't know that I believe the bubble is ready to burst, in the sense that there aren't still people willing to pay these prices. And I also think that lots of people probably do believe, and certainly this is the league's sell job, that there is money to come, that revenue will grow, that you may not get to, you may not get to the level of a Manchester United anytime soon, but you'll be able to generate more revenue than you are now on the back of the 2026 World Cup and things like that. Now, some of this is wrapped up in the TV deal, and we don't have time to unpack that, Rob. But, I was just reading an article over at the New York Times, The Athletic, I think the other day. I didn't even get through it. I wish I had, because it was very on point about how expensive it is to be a sports fan in modern America. And, the writer who was talking through a prism of baseball and basketball, being a Bostonian, was also making the point that it doesn't matter. You're an MLS fan, you're a soccer fan, you're a baseball fan, a basketball fan, a football fan. You're having to spend $2,600 a year to get access to the games. Not that long after we would be able to turn on our televisions and either get over-the-air games or cable television games, and you're paying cable television. I mean, I don't think, I don't think that staying behind the paywall is ideal for growing a league, but this is where we're at. So I don't know. What can MLS generate in terms of revenue? How does that help the valuations of its clubs?
We shall see, and I love the bubblicious call there that brought a smile to my face. MLS being bubblicious. Long ball number 3 here on Wednesday, June 18th. Major League Soccer's top scorer stuck in a war zone. Report from Yahoo Sports' Christian Arnold late last night says Philadelphia Union scorer Tai Baribo and his family are stuck in Israel. He was abroad for international duty with the conflict breaking out there between Israel and Iran. The airports are closed. Philadelphia Union says they're in constant contact with the player, but his return is a fluid situation.
Yeah, this does not look good, right? For Tai Baribo, for the Philadelphia Union. I mean, look, the first thing to say is that we hope that Tai Baribo is safe, that his family is safe. Don't wish any, hope everything is good in that front. Playing soccer is secondary for Tai Baribo at this point. Just being safe in a country that is now is fully engaged, it seems, in a conflict with Iran. And, this is another reminder that, especially in a league in our country that is becoming more and more international as time passes, there are always going to be things like this, right? And there are always going to be politics or international relations or things like skirmishes, wars, whatever, are going to impact players in world soccer. And Major League Soccer can't afford to kind of shut itself off from this. So, and I don't know. I don't love the idea that a club like the Union has to go. Should we sign an Israeli player? I don't know if we should sign an Israeli player because maybe something happens. Maybe there's some war because Israel's engaged in all of this stuff. Like, we want to separate the politics from this, but I think that's impossible. And I don't have to have a stance on who's right or who's wrong in the Israeli-Iran conflict to be upset about this from a soccer perspective. And then there's the question of where this leaves the Union. Rob, they're in first place. They're in the Supporter Shield lead. They're having an incredible season, one that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. After saying goodbye to their long-term manager, after making some changes in terms of personnel, after leaning more into their kids, we thought they were going to take a step back. Instead, more than halfway through the MLS season, they're in first place. They did win without Baribo in the lineup during the international break against Charlotte FC, who's been spiraling. Was that what the Damiani and Vasilev started up top? I think we should have some concerns about this long term, though, because Baribo's been such a big part of their success.
Yeah, if this situation with Baribo being away from the team lasts for too long, it could have an impact on this, surprisingly incredible season for the Union. For context, the scoring leaders for the Union, Tai Baribo, through this point of the season, 13 goals scored. The next player on that list is Damiani that you referenced playing in the last game, has 2. So the big drop off from 13 to 2 as far as goal contributions.
Yeah.
Granted, they have 15 different players that have scored 1 or 2 goals. So they've spread out the scoring, but I don't know my percentages very well, but 13 is much bigger number than the 2 that the next leading scorers have. So there's going to have to be a little bit of a change and an adjustment of their approach and expectations during this.
I mean, maybe it leads to a little. I mean, they're already an aggressive pressing team. Maybe it leads to a little bit of a shift in terms of how aggressive they are on the attacking of the field when they recover the ball, I guess. Not only is Baribo the leader in goal scoring for the Philadelphia Union, he's the Golden Boot leader in Major League Soccer right now. He is 1 up on Sam Surridge of Nashville SC, 2 up on Kevin Denke of Cincinnati. And if those players are, this is also, a little bit, it's the third or fourth or fifth thing that you need to be worried about. But what if Tai Baribo misses out on a Golden Boot because he's missing games, because he's stuck in Israel, because he was representing his country? By the way, let's remember, he was on international duty and Major League Soccer playing through the international break. There is that. But it's just a frustrating situation that this is what's going on here. And look, this is not exactly the same, but when we talk about travel restrictions, and we talk about the inability to travel internationally, Baribo's stuck in Israel because the airport is shut down in Tel Aviv because Tel Aviv is being bombarded by Iranian bombs or missiles. And we know that the World Cup is coming. We want it to be the best possible show for soccer in America. And meanwhile, there's legitimate concern that in addition to the list that's already been put out, restricting travel for people from certain countries, there are rumors and reports that another list is coming of 30 something countries that are going to be banned from traveling to the United States. Have people banned from traveling to the United States? How does that square with a World Cup? I have no idea how that squares with the World Cup in 2026, Rob.
I remember seeing a report a week or so ago saying Infantino was like, Trump told me that this isn't going to affect it, So,
oh yeah, so that's it. We're fine then. Okay, yeah. Johnny got Donald's word, and everything is good now. Yeah, that's we
good
know
firm handshake. Yeah,
yeah. We should totally buy into that. That yeah, we're all fine. Johnny, I trust you. No, of course not.
But at the same time, you think that those sort of rules have applied for most people, but not to folks that might be considered elite or the inner circle of things. So the players and the officials might be good to travel, but regular people might have a different set of rules altogether.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, okay, I don't even care if the teams can travel, if the fans can't travel. This is supposed to be the world's party every 4 years, right? And it's supposed to be an opportunity for people to gather in the spirit of sport, which as much as it's been co-opted and manipulated and bent to the will of powerful people and certainly people with a lot of money, it's still supposed to be the thing that brings us together, right? It's why the Olympics even exist, because what we're trying to do is to bring people together and say, hey, this is for everybody. Okay, let me just address this, right? We're going to make it political. Non-debate, in my opinion, safety of our country is more important than someone doesn't get to watch a game in person. Okay, so without knowing at all, we're just assuming that all these people are bad, right? That's what it is. Like, we're not going to actually consider the possibility that I mean, whatever. The safety of our country. We're making something out of nothing, right? We're creating a problem that only this administration can solve. But that's fine. That's fine. I mean, if you don't want the World Cup to be the World Cup, move it out of the United States of America. I mean, if you want the World Cup to be what it's supposed to be, move it out of the United States of America. If you care about the safety of your country, if you're going to buy into that narrative,
don't invite the world.
Don't invite the world. Don't, because you are not comfortable with the world being in your house. You don't get to say the World Cup is for everyone and then hold it in a country where those people at the door go, no, not you. No, you're to this and you're to that. And you speak the wrong language. And some bad people come from your country, so we're just going to keep everybody out. That's all right. There we are.
I'll tell you, Jason, I am a master of cleaning up all the problems that I created myself too. I'll just put that out there. Those are the easiest. Okay. Those are the easiest ones to clean up. And random side note before we leave: is Sam Surridge the most underrated player in MLS right now? I mean, I don't hear him talked about very much.
Well, it's certainly a situation where he didn't deliver these kind of numbers in his first couple of years in Nashville, and he was supposed to be the guy that was going to turn Nashville more attacking under Gary Smith. Obviously, Hani Mukhtar has been a fantastic attacking player in MLS for a while now. Sam Surridge has come on, and obviously BJ Callahan is a major reason for this. They just beat Chicago in Major League Soccer. I think they have not been unstoppable or anything like that, so it's hard to get a handle on whether they should be considered one of the favorites for the MLS Cup title this season. But I think you have to give them the respect. They're sitting third. They're on 32 points. They're plus 11. Only the Union are better in the conference in terms of goal difference right now, and only Vancouver and San Diego better in the West. So Nashville is maybe a dark horse. Maybe they're moving into dark horse territory at this point.
Dark horse alert indeed. Thank you for tuning in, guys. If you are watching now and the subscribe button isn't lit up underneath the screen, hit that button now. It doesn't cost you a darn thing. You don't get spammed with anything. All you do is help the channel by clicking that button. And if you are already there and you want to take your support for Morning Kick Around up a notch, $3.99 a month, you join the MK Ultras. You get priority access to videos. You get bonus content, priority commenting on this interactive show that we're doing. The goal is to become one of the town squares of the American soccer conversation. So the more people there, the better the conversation gets. You can follow along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also find us as a podcast. Search Morning Kickaround on your favorite podcast platform. All right, hit all those buttons, and we're going to be back in 1 second with our brand new stadium rendering Raider here on Morning Kickaround. We are bringing in the rendering Raider here on today's Hot Topic. This is Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis, one of kind of the cottage industries of this program, or cottage topics, if that's a thing. Ratings for renderings for new stadiums. There are plans, developments, and drawings galore of new stadia being popped up across the country. And we got 2 new ones this week, one from Florida, and in a whole new like immersive experience, maybe the king of all renderings, we shall see, from the Chicago Fire. I want to rate how good these renderings are and how real all these details might actually turn out to be.
Yeah, that's always the big question, right? How much of the promise is actually going to be realized when we look at these renderings? Renderings get me going. I am so excited. I love stadiums. I love what this means for American soccer, that we build stadiums. And renderings are always the idealized version. Very rarely do stadiums meet the rendering standard. I would like the chat. Shout out to the MK Ultras and our chat. If you can think of an MLS, or sorry, an American soccer stadium, not to be MLS, obviously, but a soccer stadium that met the standard of the renderings, that looked like in the end looked close enough to the renderings that you could say, yes, those were true renderings, and they absolutely nailed it with the real stadium. I would love to hear it. But let's talk about these. So where do you want to start? You want to start in Florida?
Yeah, let's start in Florida. Yeah.
This is the new one. This is the newest one, right? This is Tampa Bay. Give us some details on what we're looking at here.
All right, some of the details of this stadium, pretty incredible. There's also, just before, one important note before the actual facts of the stadium. This is planning to be USL's new headquarters in general, because they're based in Florida anyway, so they're planning to build new headquarters, so another level of infrastructure connected to this. But the stadium will be in Ybor Harbor, a 33-acre mixed-use development featuring residential, retail.
I'm going to stop you so you don't get in trouble. Ybor.
Is that the old school Cuban neighborhood?
Ybor City is a famous place in Tampa where lots of crazy stuff goes down. Let's just say that.
Okay. I have been there, actually. That was a fun spot to visit. It was one of those things where you're trying to kill time before you get to the airport, and you're like, man, I wish I could just stay here and not fly home. But that's besides the point.
Famous. There's a very good possibility that the Cubano sandwich was actually invented in Ybor City, not in Cuba, which is surprising to people. Anyway, continue. What else
lots of roosters running around that neighborhood too. Okay, so this development is going to include residential, retail, restaurants, hotel, office towers, including USL's brand new headquarters. And the site is on the edge of the Channelside area, with Ybor City to the north, once touted as a potential site for the Tampa Bay Rays baseball stadium. So that's kind of the connection between here and Chicago, with baseball stadiums vying for this rare underdeveloped city land. And here it looks like Tampa beating the Rays to this prime land.
Now, okay, whether all of this is done, signed, sealed, delivered, again, let's reserve our conclusions on that. I don't know that this is like there's no shovels in the ground. Like, until shovels get into the ground, I'm not really going to believe that it's happening. Like, I can't let myself believe it's happening. And until a ball is being kicked, doesn't really exist. Does that make sense?
Oh,
That's always been my standard for stadiums, because we've been through the false dawns before in certain places, right? Which is why renderings are funny, because it's like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing, but you can't really let yourself get to that hope because you don't know if it's definitely going to happen. Yes, Rob.
I think I missed one of the biggest bullet points of this. This stadium is intended for USL Super League team Tampa Bay Sun, making it one of the first made specifically for women's teams. That shouldn't be forgotten here.
We have the stadium in Kansas City, which is purpose built for the team up there. Obviously, if this is, I'd be curious, because right now you've got, okay, this is the interesting thing about this, right? You have another USL team, and you have Tampa Bay Sun, the USL Super League, inaugural champions of the USL Super League. Congratulations to them, by the way. And then you got the Tampa Bay Rowdies, who are a USL Championship outfit. But is there capacity listed for this stadium, Rob?
15,000.
Okay, so that's the
that
number,
mark,
right?
That's that
That's
mark.
that magic number for First Division men's outdoor league status, according to me, to U.S. Soccer. Again, there will probably be some waivers, and maybe it's not the end of the world if it's not, if the Rowdies are not playing in a 50,000 seat venue. But I wonder, there's nothing mentioned, right? This is supposed to be for the Sun. The Rowdies aren't mentioned, but I probably because different ownership and stuff like that, they're not going to just dive straight in and say this is going to be also the Rowdies' home. And you don't want it to become a situation where if it's the women's team that's putting the money down, the women's team that's making the effort, the women's team that's conceiving of all of this, it should be thought of as the women's team's venue. And then if the Rowdies end up renting it, okay, fine, maybe that's better for them than playing at Al Lang Stadium in St. Petersburg. I don't know. I don't know that part. There are some other pretty pictures here. Oh, by the way, is that a pool? Am I looking at a pool right there?
Ooh, is that a parking deck rooftop pool by the look of it?
I don't think it's a parking deck. I think that's supposed to be a concourse situation, but
that's
it's
pretty cool.
I think it's just like an open concourse situation, but that looks like a pool to me, which is interesting. By the way, roof around all of it. Okay, let's look at other pictures before I give my rating. So here's a little bit of a wider shot, eagle's eye view. If those buildings exist, this is very cozily tucked in.
Oh yeah,
to some pretty dense area. You do get a little bit of that open space on the other side. Let's see. Then we get this shot here. This is more of a from a lower angle. Ybor Harbor Stadium is what it says there. Whether that's the name, who knows? All right, look. A couple things, right? And we're rating the rendering. We're not rating the possibility of this being an actual stadium because too many things are between now and it opening. But this is pretty much a 10 out of 10 considering the context of what it's supposed to be, Rob.
Okay, so we were rating these two new rendering presentations on a just from the rendering itself, how cool does it look? So you're giving a 10 out of 10 on that scale. Because the believability of how real are they?
Well, believability, I think that's tougher. I'm going to give it a 5 for now. I mean, it's brand new, and I haven't got my hands around whether I think it's definitely going to happen. And if but we'll ask people on the ground in Tampa how likely they think this really is because of those things. And they're like politics and all that stuff. I don't know enough about that yet. But I'm saying, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10 in terms of the rendering. Even though it's not the most complicated or architecturally amazing, or it doesn't. There are some things sort of missing here that you might have for a higher level of stadium. 15,000 is a significant number of fans, so this looks like a great environment.
Ambitious.
I understand why it's there. I don't love the open end, but I understand why it's there. I'm going to give them a pass on the open end, which
still a 10 with the open end.
Yeah, it's still a 10 because it's for a women's team in the USL in the Super League, and because I just think that like at that level, it's unfair to judge it on the standard of say an MLS team, Rob. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm giving it a 10 in the context that it's being prepared or planned.
A long play here. Which of these features doesn't make it to the real thing? Does the pool make it?
Ooh, maybe I would say it's a good chance that only part of this stadium ends up roofed. I know this is not a complete roof because of the open end. I'd say it's a good chance. I mean, believability on roof is always where you start because the roof adds so much more to the construction price than anything else. Right, getting stands up, that's not all that hard. Putting a roof around everybody, and you probably, in this case in Tampa, USL Super League plays on that European calendar, so I don't know how much of an issue that is. A rainy season in Tampa, probably you do need a roof around most of the stadium. I think that's part of it. I think that they could probably get pretty close to this, Rob. I mean, I see some intricacy in the design there on this side, which you kind of identified as a parking garage. I understand why you're saying that. It kind of does look like that, but I don't think it is. That might be a little bit of a lift, but man, I feel like this is doable. I feel like this is a doable stadium.
One note to kind of wrap up our look at the new Tampa vision. It does say that this project does not have an anticipated start date or cost, as it's too early a process. So
There you
very
go.
early
There
going
you go.
for the Tampa Bay Suns.
Lots of things are speculative when it comes to this one.
Yeah,
That's
all
what I
those
would say.
retail and commercial places might happen, but we'll see if the stadium comes along with it. In Detroit, we've seen the old bait and switcheroo on at least one occasion, but exciting renderings there.
Do you know
So
how much
high
it costs?
scores.
Do you know how much it costs to make renderings? Not that much. So, words are cheap and so are renderings, is what I'm saying, Rob.
So we're going to turn our focus to Chicago. We talked about their like architectural sketches that they put out a week or two ago, but the Fire put out a 3D immersive video kind of touring everyone around the proposed new stadium in downtown Chicago. And before we look at that, I was going to say the reaction, because I lived there for a long time, the people that I know there still, and the local media that I still follow, the big story there has almost been how it's egg on the face for the other Chicago owners of the other sports teams that the Fire were able to usurp them to this land, because the Bears want a stadium, have wanted a stadium. The White Sox, people are begging them to find a new stadium, and the White Sox were directly competing for this land, but they put in a bid that involved public funds, whereas Mansueto and the Fire are going with private funds. I just thought it was interesting that most of the hot takes from the media there is congrats to Fire, but this is dropping the ball.
Well, I mean, it says what all you need to know about the place of soccer in the sports consciousness of Chicago. And I mean, it's not really even a shot at soccer. It's really not even like, this is a bad look for the Fire if everybody's talking about the Bears or the White Sox or whatever. Obviously, those are historic teams in that city, and they are wrapped up in the identity of Chicago. Whereas the Fire are still trying to figure out how to be that even after 30 years in town. And maybe this stadium helps them. Let's remind everybody that this is what they put out initially in that letter that Mansueto issued about his plan to build a stadium in the South Loop of Chicago. And we went bonkers over this.
Yeah.
Like I'm a cartoon wolf going awooga just over this thing.
Some steam coming out of your ears.
Yeah, steam coming out of my ears. My heart is pumping out of my chest like this, just because of this pencil drawing or pen ink drawing or whatever this is. Now, there are so many things here that are super sexy about this rendering. But as you said, we have more to look at. Now, first, they put out some information. By the way, this is the location. I wanted to establish where this is. See where Soldier Field is? I mean, this is only, a little ways to the west from Soldier Field, which you can walk to from downtown Chicago. It's a bit of a hike, but you can get there. Like
there's no way to casually go to Soldier Field.
That is true too. There's some crossing of things that make it really difficult. That is a fair point.
It's a day out at the museum, regardless. No matter where you find parking or travel, there is a lot of walking. You feel like you spent the day out in the town just to make it into the stadium.
That's fair. I would say that's probably fair. So again, so you have the loop, right? So that you can see where the near north side is, Streeterville, all that. These are identifying some places. Navy Pier. Like I once was in Chicago with my wife, and we stayed, Miracle Mile area or whatever that is, and went out to the Navy Pier. So this is still an incredible location, right? An incredible location for a Chicago Fire Stadium. And as you said, definitely those other teams would have loved to be able to build here, but Joe Mansueto pipped them because he's willing to pay for the whole thing. He's not asking the city for any money, at least as far as we know. Here are the renderings they put out. Let's start outside the building, Rob. Now, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, it looks great. It just looks great. The brick element, I'm 100% on board. This is classy, right? This is a classy look for a stadium.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We did praise the Fire for that pencil drawing and not adding in fake AI people, but we do get those. But the building itself is really clean, really nice, and like you said, highbrow approach to this. I'd say
we even get the mascot, that Dalmatian that they've got is right there. You can see him. He's kind of walking through.
Like Where's Waldo?
Yeah. I guess we got these little pop up. I mean, I don't know how permanent these are supposed to be. These outdoor stores selling gear and stuff like that. I guess I don't know. This is on your walk in.
That looks like
to
something that looks like an opening day sort of a setup there. What,
yeah,
like a
yeah.
Wednesday in August? Are they getting the pop-up stuff out front?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it's like it's okay. It's a decent look. Here we go. We're still outside. Okay, here's what we got.
That's a lot
So
of
again,
tents.
what are those tents? That's the thing. Like, is this sort of like a showcase of vendors or something? Are we doing some sort of festival in addition? There's the Riverwalk side right there, which is an incredible time. If you got a stadium that close to the river, and that's beautiful. That is beautiful. You can see downtown Chicago there. You can see what is it? What's the what's the name of the building now? It's not the Sears Tower anymore.
It was Willis Tower
Willis
for a
Tower.
while, and I think it might actually be a new name it since the Willis Tower as well, but
I
the
think
local
that's
still
right.
called Sears.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. That's a little river kind of view. Now we're inside. And you get the tower in the background. Now, no open end for this stadium. We're fully enclosed and a roof around the whole joint. Now, whereas I was doubting the chances that we get a roof, even 3/4 roof in Tampa, and there's so much work to be done there. And I think you have to consider the level of the team and those kind of things. Like, how moneyed is the ownership of the Tampa Bay Sun? I actually don't know that.
Andy,
Farmers
you're
League
cracking me up.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't know. I'd go to a farmer's market at the soccer stadium. Anyway, the expectation for Mansueto, who is a billionaire, right, and has the ability, if he wants to spend his own money or borrow the money to do it, can absolutely make this building happen, gets me very excited, Rob. It gets me very excited.
So I'm on the edge of my seat. Are we going to do the video? Are we going to watch?
We are. We got. I got one more inside just to give you a look. I'm assuming we got. So I've seen a detail. I don't know if you have it there. That the supporter section is going to be the steepest in MLS. That's the other way they described the design. Now, there are some pretty steep supporter sections in Major League Soccer already. So if they're going to try to, wall of sound, yellow wall, Dortmund kind of vibes, that's going to be great. Obviously, the roof makes that so much more impressive, so much more daunting for the opponent, that kind of thing. But I know. All right, you want the video, right?
You
ready for the video? All right,
this
here we go.
Overload here for rendering junkies. Not Miami. Video takes us through our Farmers League market.
Farmers League market, there it is. Inside.
Whoa.
Fire up. We got player names there already. Loud. There's a supporters den. Smoke? Wait a second. Flare some smoke? We doing that?
That's not allowed.
I think that's illegal.
It's dangerous.
That's legal. I'm going to turn it down as we get ready to say goodbye. I don't know what the name of this building is going to be. It's coming 2028. So we're still at the earliest 3 years away from this. Okay, just on the rendering, and I'm going to give them a pass on the smoke and the flares, even though those aren't allowed. And I hate it when clubs market with those elements. When
you'd get kicked out of a game for that.
You get kicked out of a game for having them. This is 100 out of 10. Can I do that? Am I allowed to do that? No, it's a 10 out of 10. It is a perfect score. It's renderings, right? I don't know if it's going to look exactly like that. If Mansueto and the Fire build that stadium, best stadium in American soccer. Best stadium in American soccer. It is. There's no how could you argue against that? Location, the style of the building, it is
privately funded.
That stadium belongs at a top level club in Europe. I mean, there are clubs that I can't even imagine building that stadium because they don't have the money. Here, Joe Mansueto and the Fire apparently do. Look, there are some very good stadiums. Red Bull Arena is still, we've kind of taken that one for granted. That's still an incredible soccer venue in America. The Cruz new joint is a very nice building. I was there for the open of that building. Who am I missing that's built some very nice stadiums? Nashville, but it built a 30,000 seat stadium. It's a nice stadium. Not going to say that there's anything wrong with it necessarily.
Cincinnati, I hear nice.
I've been to Austin. Austin's okay. I have not seen LAFC's building in person, but I was there during construction, and I've seen plenty of pictures. It looks very nice, right? These are proper soccer stadiums. This one is on a different level for location, the accoutrement, the vibes of it, the look of it, the river, all of it is next level for Major League Soccer. Now, Andy is saying Portland, location, and history. Portland is great. Portland is smack dab in Portland. It's a great location, but they've had to piece that thing together. They've done a great job, and they added the second level and all that stuff. They've done a great job, but you still have the sports club end that they can't do anything with because that's a law. I mean, they just can't do it. It's an open end. They have an open end in Portland. If they didn't have an open end, if it was a roof all around the whole thing, yeah, it'd be right there. It'd be right there. But this is next level, Rob.
So we got 100 out of 10 on the renderings. And so I want to add the caveat note on what do we believe is actually going to be there from this? Because it says, the plan is received positively by the city, but the project requires further city approvals and and one of the biggest things going for it is a privately financed thing, but still has some city approvals. Believability rating.
I'm going to say 6. I'm only going to take it past 5 because of Mansueto's money, right? And because they're making a big show of this, and I really don't think he would be as aggressive with it if he didn't think he'd get it done. Now, it's Chicago, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's Chicago. So I don't know about that part. I mean, the politics of it are going to be tricky for anybody, regardless if you're the Bears, if you're the White Sox, the politics will be tricky. But he seems to have 100% ambition to get this done. I think it's likely, if not very likely. Where would you put it, Rob?
I think, yeah, to your point of making the big show of it, if it was just like an offhand, like just the original sketches, like, and then like the whole like love letter and all that Mansueto wrote, that brings it up a notch. I feel like he wouldn't be doing all that if it was a play for something else, or if it was like, there's a chance that this happens. I feel like the amount of marketing and the heartfeltness of the presentations leads me to believe that there is a lot of truth to this. And I think this is a much higher believability rating than the Tampa one. But like you said, nothing is surefire until it's there.
Okay. Right. So what was your score on Tampa?
My score on believability was like a 4.
Okay. So you're below
and then, but the renderings were like an 8 out of 10. And then I think this is a 10 out of 10 for the renderings, the plan, and all that stuff. Believability 7 for me.
Okay. I mean, let's put a special mark on this episode, because I hope in 3 years' time, first of all, I hope we're still doing Morning Kick Around. Become a member, support Morning Kick Around, so we can still be doing the show in 3 years' time. But I hope that we're maybe we'll meet up at the debut, the opening of the Chicago Fire's new stadium there in the South Loop. Maybe we'll have a chance to be there together to see the place and see if it meets what they're planning here. Right. The chances that it's exactly what they rendered is 0. It's 0 because construction in general has problems that come up. Things will, if we put this here, we got to move this thing, and the orientation of this is wrong, or these seats are things are going to change. 100% things are going to change. But in terms of believability that gets close to that, yeah, that's where the big question is.
Our stadium rendering conversations will continue on Friday as we bring in Detroit City FC's one of the owners, Sean Mann, and they have their stadium project in the works too. So come back on Friday for more stadium chat to help us be around in 3 years when these stadiums go online, hopefully. Become a subscriber and then become a member to provide some sustainability and some growth to this program. First level, just click subscribe and boom, you help us out that way. Take it up a notch, $3.99 a month. Become an MK Ultra. You'll become a member and you'll be right here in this growing community. You get early access to videos, priority commenting on the live version. You get bonus content and access to the growing Morning Kick Around Discord. So lots of incentives to become a member. If you want to support financially outside of the YouTube bubble, you can go to coffee.com/morningkickaround, where you can name your contribution and the way you'd like to contribute. So thank you to everyone who has supported in any of those ways. If you'd like to follow along on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And don't forget to look us up on your favorite podcast platform. Just look up Morning Kickaround. All right, we're going to take a moment, catch our breath, and come right back with our final segment of the day. Big question coming at you here on Morning Kickaround. The big question here on Morning Kickaround, it is Wednesday, June 18th, just a few days into the Club World Cup, an expansion, basically a brand new competition being planted and parachuted, dropped right onto the American shores. Didn't know what to make of it, didn't know how the teams would approach it, how full the stadiums would be, what the fan reception would be. And you'd say we were maybe a little bit negative just because the way this was kind of forced with cash and just pumped to make it. FIFA forced this thing to happen regardless of public reception. So after a few days, we want to take a moment and reflect of like what's been good about the Club World Cup here in the first few days.
I got two headlines that I think kind of sum up where we are with the Club World Cup that is happening right now. This one is first from, let me move that out of the way and put this back up. This is our friend Henry Bushnell writing at Yahoo Sports, and he says, why are Club World Cup stadiums half empty? It goes beyond ticket prices, the problems. And so he dives into this over at Yahoo Sports as to what's going on with the ticket prices. I'm sorry, with the stadiums not being full. Obviously, some of this is timing of games. 22,000 people went to Chelsea LAFC, for example.
3:00 on a Monday, though, like
3:00 on a Monday. 3:00 on a Monday. You had 11,974 at River Plate Urawa Reds in Seattle. I picked up some of that game yesterday. 3,400 in Orlando from Mamelodi Sundowns versus Ulsan HD. Obviously, you've got different kinds of matchups, right? The attractiveness of these matchups is a factor. Now, the other side of this is our friend Alexander Abnos writing at The Guardian. Empty seats are everywhere at the Club World Cup. Does this miss the real point? And his story has a subheading that says, put in a wider context, the attendance issues that have emerged during the tournament perhaps aren't quite as embarrassing as they seem. Right. And again, kind of picking apart why the tournament looks like this, Rob. Like what is going on here? And so I guess it's really hard because this is so new, so different, because it's happening at the same time as some other stuff that is keeping our attention as American soccer fans. And it comes ahead of a World Cup next year, which is casting a kind of a backward shadow over everything. It's really hard to know how to feel about the tournament to begin with, the reaction to the tournament, the reasons for that reaction, whether they actually mean anything. Right? Does it mean anything that people aren't going to see Mamelodi Sundowns versus Ulsan HD? Does it mean anything that Mercedes-Benz Stadium wasn't full for Chelsea LAFC on a Monday? Right? Does that mean anything? I don't know. It sounds kind of simple to say no, it doesn't. But I think the argument is pretty strong that doesn't mean much. And a lot of this is FIFA's missteps as much as it is the tournament isn't worth anything.
Those games not having that many people in there, having teams come in from lesser known places, like this is the main one that people have highlighted, the one in Orlando, the South Korean team versus the South African team. So that is just part of, it's almost like collateral damage for the concept of this. We want all the teams from all over the world to come right here. So it's kind of hard to expect that these teams would fill entire stadiums. So it's almost like a byproduct, just like collateral damage. Like, okay, there's going to be some games where there's not a lot of attention.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, if you think about like a tournament or an event like the Olympics, unquestionably one of the biggest events in the world, but there are plenty of events where there's like a handful of people there. And so we don't consider those like an embarrassment because like, I don't know if fencing's the right, or maybe like a rowing competition where like the rowing first round, there's like 18 people and their wives there in the stand. So I don't think that we should necessarily like look at this one empty stadium. This is a ridiculous thing. And plus, I heard, and also brevity of this is the first year ever doing this. So whenever anything's a concept, obviously it's trial by fire. Some things will work, some things won't. So if there is a second year, maybe they do play more games at the same time rather than putting them at 3:00 at the local time, or maybe even in 4 years or whenever they're considering doing the next one, they would put those sort of games in different spots or maybe different stadiums. There would be adjustments if there's a second iteration of this.
Yeah, I mean, I also think there's just so much sort of extra stuff around this thing that changes how we should feel about it. We heard the reports going into the opener in Miami with Inter Miami playing Al Ahly of Egypt. We heard about the federal agents, the federal agents who were going to be part of the security. And even if that was sort of like, oh, that always happens. Like, oh, they just enlist whoever they can to be security at these events. It still doesn't mean people are going to be gung ho to go out to the games if they think there's going to be any static at all. Even if, like, I heard that argument. Oh, like I mentioned my wife's Puerto Rican, right? And I said I would be concerned about taking my wife to a game where there are ICE agents doing security. And somebody says, oh, your wife's a citizen. She has nothing to worry about. Brother, that's not what's happening. Like, what's happening is that people that regardless, like, I don't want my wife to even be hassled about her citizenship, much less be detained or anything else. So if I can't be 100% positive because of how she looks or how she sounds when she speaks English or anything, or she speaks Spanish at all, if I can't be comfortable with that, why would I take her? Like, why would I even put her in that position? So people are going to stay away in part because of what's happening in the world. And even if that doesn't explain all of this, it's a factor. It's at least one factor in some of this. Now, again, FIFA has botched it in terms of where they're putting these games. In terms of timing, man, I guess maybe you have to play some games mid-afternoon if you're going to get them all in a 32-team tournament. You can't just do evening games for everybody. I think there is that.
Probably trying to capture international audiences with that early times as well. Trying to capture people from Europe.
That's right too. Like you're also programming this on some level. The Chelsea game started at 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, right? That's perfect for Chelsea fans. It's not great for people going out in Atlanta to watch the game if they have to work on a Monday. So that's a thing as well. I mean, I'm not trying to let FIFA off the hook. They've botched this dramatically. The ticket sale process has been horrific. The prices have been terrible. They could have put some of these games in smaller venues rather than just book the biggest venue in town. I don't know why they would. I mean, again, this idea that, we're going to sell 70,000 for a group stage match between two teams that most people don't pay attention to, or even if you have a big team, the other team, that's a thing, right? Maybe squeezing a little bit too much and expecting to get more juice out of this than they're getting. But I'll say that for all the bad stuff, and I've said this,
we hang on the bad. We should say making people pour out their water at the Rose Bowl before they walked into a 95-degree day in California with no shade. That's not bad. Good. That's in the bad category.
That's bad. There's some bad things here, definitely. I'm a conscientious objector to this whole deal. Like I would say that, like, I don't like the concept of it. I think players are being asked to do too much. I think Gianni Infantino is a skeezy scam artist, all that stuff, right? I don't like FIFA in general, all that stuff. And yet I can't help but find myself interested when you've got Flamengo playing in a game against European opposition, or you've got I'm trying to remember
respecting the Club World Cup, even if it's prior version where it was literally like 6 teams, like just the Continental Club winner. So the year that Liverpool went there, no one cares about it until your team is in it.
Well, but there's also that
seeing the passion from the Brazilian and South American fans. They have such a rare opportunity to go head to head with European and other top teams that they relish it. So seeing the best part to me, if we're doing good things, is seeing the Brazilian fans.
Absolutely. That's just what I wanted to get to. That's what I wanted to get to, right? That you have these interesting matchups, right? Boca Juniors Benfica played to this wild 2-2 draw that involved, I think, 3 red cards, although one of them was given to Ander Herrera, who was on the bench at the time after he'd been subbed off for injury. I mean, again, Flamengo beating Esperance. Okay, Esperance is not a team I expect much out of, but Flamengo definitely cares about this tournament. Palmeiras and Porto, Botafogo beating the Sounders, whatever. Like, there are interesting matchups here that catch my attention. I know there weren't that many people on hand to watch that game last night between River Plate and Urawa Red Diamonds, But to see an Argentine team take on a team from Japan is like, oh, when am I going to see that? And you said something about the old Club World Cup format. Yeah, it was 6 teams or whatever it was. One representative from each confederation. But they also did that thing where like the European teams had a bye to the semifinals or something. So you barely, it didn't feel like a real competition. It felt like Daniel LaRusso going straight to the finals in Karate Kid 3 or whatever that was, because they didn't want to have to spend any time explaining how he got there. Like that was not, this feels more like, there's something on the line in these group stage matches. If you don't win your games, you're not going through. So as much as it still is kind of like jaundiced eye stuff, the atmospheres in a lot of places have been very good. The passion from the fans, particularly those from outside of UEFA, has been excellent. I've seen, the takeover of city city squares, South Beach by Boca fans, city squares in Philadelphia. Like, people care about this, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, we shall see if it goes. Hopefully we have more good as the tournament goes on. On Wednesday here, it's the final day of first games. So on the Wednesday slate, Man City versus Wydad, Real Madrid with Trent. Did you see Trent's going by just one name now? Now that he's Spanish? He's no longer Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is now Trent, now that he's a Spaniard in Madrid.
Well, if we're going to do that, he's got to be Trent. He can't be like Trent. He'd be Trent. Hey, Trent. No, I don't know. That's...
Hi, I'm Trent.
I don't know how I feel about that. I gave the man a pass on speaking Spanish in his introductory press conference because the Brits went crazy over. Oh, he's been learning Spanish the whole time. This is all been he's not a traitor to Liverpool. First of all, that man was reading. He was not speaking. He was reading, and his accent wasn't that good. So you'd think if with a little bit more practice, he would have tried a little harder with the accent.
Pretty good day one, though. Pretty good day one.
Going by Trent, I don't know, man. That might be a bridge too far.
And then the final two matchups at 6 Eastern, Pachuca versus Salzburg, and then the nightcap for the Club World Cup is Al Ain versus Juve. So probably the thing that catches my eye, the afternoon, Real Madrid versus Al Hilal, to see the debut of Trent, but we shall see. We got a great show coming up on Friday. Like I said, Sean Mann and all these sort of topics. I'm sure we're going to talk about men's national team and plenty more. Lots of competitions, plenty of talk about. I think we got soccer coming out of our ears now. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you are watching this now and you're not subscribed, hit that button now. Join the growing group of MK Ultras and join the town square of the American soccer conversation that we're building here. You can also step it up a notch with your support. $3.99 a month. Become a member. Become an official MK Ultra, and you get access to the Discord. You get early access to videos. You get priority on-screen commenting here on the live videos, and so much more. So if you're able, we'd appreciate if you do that kindly. If you'd like to contribute outside of the YouTube sphere, Ko-Fi or coffee.com/morningkickaround. Still get that backwards there just a touch, where you can name your contribution amount, and definitely name your contribution there at coffee.com/morningkickaround. Thank you for everyone who's contributed in any way they have so far, and thank you for future assistance moving forward. Follow us on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Find us on or you can write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or find us as a podcast, Morning Kickaround, on your favorite podcast platform. All right, you got any final words here on Monday before we hit the road?
Or Wednesday, no. Rather? Looking forward to the U.S. men's national team game tomorrow and to Friday's show, Rob.
All right, we'll be back Friday. And until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.